Alright guys, it's Mr. Katz. Just wanted to do some of these problems with you to help you with chapter 10.1. So remember, I'm going to ask you to do a problem, wait for the instructions, and then pause the video, and then you can check your answers. Alright, so basically the first thing I want you to do is I want you to take this quadratic equation up here, and I want you to graph it how you would by hand. So pause the video and then do that, and then I'm going to go over the answers once you're done. Alright, so now that you got a chance to do it, first thing we talked about in class is that you always want to find the vertex first. And the line of symmetry of the vertex is always from this this equation, that formula, negative b over 2a. Remember that the b is the coefficient in front of the x, so our b is negative 3, and our a is the number in front of your x squared, so your a is 1. So when I plug that in the formula, I get negative 3 over 2 times 1, which is just 2, which gets us a positive 3 over 2. So now we know that the vertex, the line of symmetry, is 3 over 2, which just simply means that at 1.5 over 1.5, that there's this imaginary line that would cut our parabola in half. And this right here is the line x equals 3 over 2, or 1.5. So the next thing we're going to do is, now that we know x is 3.5, or I'm going to say 1.5, I can take my equation and I'm going to plug in that 3 over 2. So I got 3 over 2 squared minus 3 times 3 over 2 plus 2. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to plug that into my calculator. And instead of 3 over 2, I'm going to use 1.5, so it's 1.5 squared. And then it's minus 3 times 1.5. And then finally, plus 2. And I get as an answer negative 0.25, or negative 1/2. I'm sorry, 1/4. So my y is negative 1/4, or negative 0.25, and that gets us where our vertex is. Our vertex is going to be at our x value of 3 over 2, comma, negative 1/4. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to plot those points in. So 3.5 is over 1.5, and then down 1/4. So my vertex is going to be right about over here. Now, I got to get at least 2 more points in order to graph it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to erase this part. And now I'm going to use a different x. I'm going to go ahead and make x 0. And when I make x 0 and plug 0 into this equation, I get 0 equals 0 plus 2. You end up with 2. So the point that is on our parabola is 0, 2. So I go up over 0, up 2. Now, the cool thing about your line of symmetry is I can use it because I can go over this much and then go over that much more because it's symmetrical. And once I have that, now what I can do is draw my parabola. And that's how you would draw your parabola by hand. Next question. Write the equation of the axis of symmetry. That's one question. Find the coordinates of the vertex. That's the second question. Graph each function, and then identify it as a maximum or minimum. So there's 3 things we have to do here. Actually 4 if you count graphing. So here is our equation right here. And I want you to do this one. We're gonna do a little bit of it by hand and a little bit on the calculator. So first of all, to find where the vertex is, I'm gonna say, go ahead and pause the video. I want you to try this one on your own. And if I wanted to find the vertex, it's going to be negative b over 2a. So in this case, the b is negative 4, and the a is negative 1. So I get negative 4 over 2 times negative 1, which is negative 2. So it becomes positive 4 divided by negative 2, which gets us negative 2. So the line of symmetry, this is one of our questions, the line of symmetry is x equals -2, a vertical line. Now, once we get that, to find our whole vertex, is I'm going to plug in a -2 into this equation. So I have negative x squared, so negative -2 squared, minus 4 times -2, minus 4. So if I go ahead and solve this, -2 squared is positive 4. Bring down the negative sign. -4 times a -2 is positive 8. And now I'm just going to solve from left to right. You end up with 4 minus 4. You end up with 0. So we now find our vertex is at -2, 0. So I'm going to go over 2, up 0. There's our vertex. Now, in order to get the other points, I'm going to use my calculator. So I'm going to plug in the original equation, which would be right here, negative x squared. So I'm going to go ahead and clear this. So I have negative x squared minus 4x, and then it was minus 4. And when I hit graph, I should be able to see a good portion of my graph. Now, you're going to notice you don't see anything, and that's because your window right here goes from 10 to -10, so it must be outside this window. So the first thing I'm going to try is the zoom button. And when I hit zoom, zoom 0 is best fit, which they think would be the best fit of this parabola. So when I hit zoom 0, doesn't seem like anything's coming up. For some reason I deleted my my equation, so let me go ahead and put that in again. Negative x squared minus 4x, and then it was minus 4. Graph. There it is. Okay, so it's a pretty good graph, and then to find out, I already know that the vertex was at -2, 0. So I just have to get a couple more points. So I'm going to go to my table, second graph, and I can see that here are some of my other points. So 0, -4 is another one of my points. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then using the line of symmetry, I can walk 2 back to the line of symmetry and then 2 more over. And now I have enough to kind of roughly graph my parabola. All right. And I think and then it's a maximum because the vertex is the highest you go before coming back down. And it looks like I answered all the questions. The vertex, that was the y, so the vertex was at -2, 0. Last problem. Okay. I'm going to use this formula to model the height, feet of a model rocket after it is launched. And the question is what is the highest point the rocket will get to, and at how many seconds will the rocket actually get to that highest point? So now I'm going to do everything on my calculator. We're going to talk about, basically I want to graph this, and I want to know what the vertex is, which is a maximum. So to do this on the calculator, it's actually very easy. Instead of h equals, we're going to graph y equals. I'm going to plug in, go back to my y equals, and I'm going to clear it out, and I'm going to put in my new formula, which is -16x squared plus 250x. And I'm going to go ahead and hit graph. Now when I hit graph, I probably won't be able to see it because this is a rocket and it probably goes higher than 10, and it probably goes farther than, up 10 seconds. So I'm going to go to zoom best fit first, which is zoom 0, and let's see if this works at all. Alright, so I definitely see the start of my parabola, but I don't see the highest point, so I want to move my whole window so that it's over this way a little bit. So I'm going to go to my window. Oops, there's my window. And I don't really need to see a lot of the x minimums. I don't need to go to -10. So I'm going to start that at -2. And my x max, I'm going to go ahead and go to about 20. Now for my y minimum, I don't need to see when the rocket is below the x-axis because that would be negative height. So I'm going to make that -5. And we'll keep the y max at, we'll make it 1,000. If I hit graph, let's see what it looks like. And that actually looks perfect. So what we want to see is, what is the maximum height, the vertex? So to do that, I'm going to go to second, and then right here is calculate, and it's a maximum. So I'm going to choose option number 4. And it says left bound. Remember, that means that you can see your little blinky cursor right here. You want to go to the left of what you're trying to find. Now, that's trying to find the vertex. So I'm going to hit my left arrow over a little bit until it looks like it's all the way towards the left of it. Looks like it's about on the left right now. I'm going to hit enter. And then it says right bound. So I'm going to now move to the right of the vertex. A little more. And now I'm going to hit enter. And the last step, it just says guess. You're going to just hit enter a third time. And it says our maximum is, and let me write this down, 7, x is 7 and 8/10, and y is about 977. 7.8, 977. Now think about what this means. Our x coordinate, remember, is the t, the time. The y coordinate, remember, is the height. So what this tells you is that if your vertex is at 7.8 comma about 977, that your rocket ship goes as high as 977 feet, and it did that in 7.8 seconds. And another question, which I didn't ask you, but we can answer, is if you know it got exactly halfway, because the vertex, remember, is on the line of symmetry, in 7.8 seconds, so from there to there took 7.8 seconds, then we also know from here to here took 7.8 seconds. So if I asked you when did the rocket hit the ground, you could actually use the vertex and just double it and say the rocket got to the ground in 7.8 times 2, or 15 and 6/10 seconds. Only because I know that there is symmetry involved in a parabola.